Brand new Xal'atath Whispers and old N'alotha Whispers find a perfect match, and it looks like N'alotha has been warning us about Xal'atath the entire time, but we didn't listen. Xal'atath just appeared in Classic a few weeks back where she told us that the old gods are useful but misguided relics of the past. It's heavily implied that the old gods rebelled against the Void Lords, they didn't want to be just tools, and that Xal'atath was sent to stop them. N'alotha says that the fall of night will reveal her true face and that she will bring only ruin, and that he alone can save us from what is to come. He also told us about how when the night falls, her song will end. As you may know, we're currently getting the Radiant Song of Azeroth, and 11.1.5 is literally called Nightfall, and we are revisiting the horrific visions, very likely involving N'alotha. So literally, what is going on? Is N'alotha going to come to confront Xal'atath, or will they ultimately unite? Let's examine all these whispers because this is just mind-blowing. Did you know you can play the War Within directly on your phone with Awesome, this video's sponsor? You can control your desktop from your phone completely free, which is perfect when you don't really want to sit at the computer. Super easy to use, just use my link, download the PC and the phone app and just connect them. The free version is great, you can control your desktop, but the real deal is the game version with custom keyboards for various games such as WoW with great FPS and sound. Make sure to use my code DORON to get 7 days completely free so you can try it out only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart plug to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on pro and game versions. Check out Awesome. So I know I've been talking about this a million times, but the thing is, we're constantly getting new information, new lore, new whispers, new documents, that every time something happens, we can essentially reframe entire theories, and over time, puzzle pieces start falling into place one after the other. So yes, I'm aware that Blizzard hasn't really had this 15-year-old master plan in place the entire time, and they're just kind of winging it and retroactively connecting things, but they do seem to actually be connecting things. However, the current lore that they're doing, while it has shifted when Chris Metzner came, it was already plotted out during Dragonflight clearly, and all the information from then still stands and it connects to everything. One of the interviews that not many people mention is the one talking about the civil strife of the Black Empire. Blizzard at the time had essentially confirmed or soft confirmed that the old gods had rebelled. They talked about how we shouldn't look at the Void Lords as an equivalent of the Titans because they're not. Titans are beings of order with a hierarchy, strict rules, edicts and such, and the Void is literally the polar opposite. This is what drove the Titans to get us mad. They don't follow a structure, they're chaotic by definition, by nature, and the plans that they follow in hierarchies just constantly shift and flow. They do have this pecking order of sorts, I mean they kinda know who's who, that has been confirmed, but it's just not as strict. We know for a fact that the old gods had civil wars right on Azeroth, they fought with each other, and they might have even destroyed the 5th old god that could potentially be in Kazakhstan. However, they also work together, but they also sabotage each other. This interview in the past confirmed that while the Chronicle was right, the old gods really were the tools sent by the Void Lords to set the ground for a Void conversion, the plans changed on the fly. It was implied that the old gods liked their authority and the Black Empire they had established, and when you think about it from their perspective, I mean these guys are obviously highly intelligent beings. Why would they build this massive empire and enjoy all this unlimited power, only to then sacrifice themselves and to just convert the planet just to empower the Void Lords above them? Therefore, the interview implied that the old gods had a change of plans and that they might have wanted to become more than just mere tools. This could even shift the whole narrative that the Titans managed to stop the conversion last minute. It's entirely possible that the old gods never even intended to complete it, and therefore Xal'atath was sent to finish the job. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because we literally have new dialogue from just a few weeks back. You might remember the really weird conversations we had from Xal'atath when she was in the dagger and she was talking to us directly. Despite the fact that they were allies, she constantly had obvious contempt for the old gods. She thought they were dumb, useless. She even told us that N'alotha was the weakest of them all. The War Within dialogue told us that Xal'atath is older than the old gods, and it was implied that both the Void Lord Dimensius and Xal'atath were present on Azeroth during the Black Empire, and that this could be when the fallout happened. Now, you might have seen Xal'atath as constantly appearing in Classic, which Chris Metzner told us is actually canon lore, like this is not an alternate universe, it's just parts of Classic that we haven't seen back in the day. Now, in Classic, as we're around Khatoon, this new update shows Xal'atath, and she says this: the so-called old gods, washed up has-beens, boring and misguided as ever. but useful in their own way. I know the phrasing of words sounds kind of weird for like a million-year-old cosmic villain, I mean calling them has-beens, but that is besides the point. She probably implies that they're useful because they did set the Black Empire, but calls them misguided, which implies that they strayed away from the path. I would say the boring part implies that she sees them as lesser beings. Now, hold on to this because I want to talk about the same thing, but just from N'Alotha's perspective, as I've dug out some old whispers of his, and damn does everything start to really connect. So, N'Aloth 100% knew about Xal'atath's plan, which of course comes as no shocker, but he has been warning us this entire time about her and how only he is the one that is able to stop her. He was also 100% right on this because we can't really stop her because we know midnight will happen and she will succeed. Now, don't get it twisted, I'm not saying like N'Aloth was a good guy all along, he wanted to stop her so that we can live a nice life. I mean, this is more like two black empires, like two devils fighting each other. Both are terrible for us, of course, but Xal'atath's plan seems much more sinister and is supported by the true powers of the Void and not the imposters that will be the old gods. Blizzard is obviously pushing this rivalry between Azeroth and Xal'atath. You can see this in the Nerubian cinematic, you can see this in the new dialogue, and as you can see in the cinematic, she approaches the Nerubians and they show us N'Aloth failing to recruit the Nerubians for his war. However, as I said, these void beings are chaotic. Despite the fact that they hate each other, they also work together. For example, in BFA, N'Aloth did free Xal'atath so that she can find her way, but he instructed her to leave the blade itself so that he can use it. I feel like N'Aloth probably knew what would happen and that he would lose in the end, so he thought what is currently going on is his real plan, where he actually has a higher chance of success. However, speculation and yapping aside, let's actually look at some really interesting whispers. While some of these could definitely be referring to Shadowlands and Savannas, I feel like they also kind of perfectly fit into what is going on. N'Aloth said, when the arrow finds its mark, the last fetter will fall away. The fall of the night reveals her true face. She will bring only ruin. I alone can save you from what is to come. Now, literally cross-examine this with the current roadmap for the War Within, and it's just mind-blowing. Arrow finding its mark could 100% refer to Illyria shooting the arrow at the Dark Heart that then leads us to part 2 of Xal'atath's plan. The roadmap says that we're getting an event known as Nightfall in 11.1.5, which ultimately transitions into Midnight, and we're also revisiting the horrific visions of N'Aloth in 11.1.5 as well. As you may know, Xal'atath is possessing the body, she's the one setting up the invasion. It's entirely possible that the Fall of Night, aka Nightfall, is going to be what is going to reveal her true face, which is the face of a void being. Now, obviously, N'Aloth was not really trying to save us, but I think he was fully capable of actually stopping her. Some events occurred in ancient history during the Black Empire, very likely some sort of a rebellion. It was implied that Xal'atath was defeated, which is why she was missing in action, was in the dagger. It must have been the old gods that kept her from doing this, and I think they were actually fighting on multiple fronts. They had to defend the Black Empire from outside invasions, but they also faced the wrath of their own, and this never really stopped even when they were imprisoned. N'Aloth knew how to keep Xal'atath under control and how to stop the Void Lord plan, which is why he told us that he's the only person in the world that can save us, and realistically at the time he really was the only one other than Xal'atath that knew what was really going on. This also explains Ashara's rebellion. I think Ashara wanted to work for the real Void instead of him, which is why she said she was tired of the intermediaries. In one of these whispers, N'Aloth also said that the light had struck a bargain with the enemy of all, which I don't really know what it means yet. We know the light and the void are connected. Something light-based is definitely going on with Beladar, so this might be something we're yet to uncover. Maybe the Light Lord started working with the Void ones in order to defeat Sargeras, but I feel like it is far too early to speculate about this yet. However, I want to mention a few interesting things. Back in the last war, we got these mysterious whispers, which we also thought was connected to the old gods. One of these said, "Night falls, her song will end." Once again, Azeroth's radiant song and also Nightfall that keeps being mentioned again and again. However, if this is connected, it's all being, of course, retroactively connected. The true 100% lore is the one they wrote in Dragonflight because they already had a plan of what is going to happen in the World Soul Saga. If you may remember, we had this alternate time travel scenario where we got brand new N'Aloth whispers during Dragonflight, and it said this, and it's also happening in the War Within as we speak. You will follow him to the deep places. The dark waters will flow in his wake. Deeper, deeper its roots will reach, welcoming our embrace. Her dreams sink beneath the surface, our dreams, our song. I don't really know if I even need to explain this to you, as this is literally the plot of the War Within, what is currently going on and what is about to happen. We followed Magnet to the deep places, roots reaching the embrace is at this point 100% Eluna here, which is at the bottom of the castle guard, and the roots are obviously infected by the combined old god blood. Her dream singing their dreams is definitely referring to the Radiant song. Ny'alotha, however, is 100% going to be relevant in this expansion. You must have seen the weird fish quest where an obvious symbol of Ny'alotha appeared that told us that while they're gone, the blood remains and the blood remembers, and the fish also went to some sort of a void under the sea where no light shines, which implies that this might be the 5th zone we are yet to discover. There are heavy hints we might have this Void Sea or Old God Blood Sea, and that this could be where Ny'alotha, the so-called sunken city, really is, because N'Zot's real prison was never truly pinpointed, and we might discover his real body. It might also explain where all these Nerubians are getting the old god parts from that they're experimenting with in their laboratories, because they got everything from eyes to tentacles. Overall though, I know, Southern Isle and Undermine is not all that exciting from the main storyline perspective, but it does appear that 11.1.5 and 11.2 is going to be absolutely crazy. We might finally see what Xal'atath really is in the game, and we might get N'Zoth, and we might figure out what N'Zoth was warning us about the entire time. Thanks for watching. Check out the confirmed return of Ashara by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Peril and Select Mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.